Hey guys, it's Mrs. Gower. I'm going to show you guys today how to draw your mouth. And then the next video and Canvas assignment will be how to shade the mouth. So the mouth is going to be kind of similar, kind of almost like an even mix of how to approach the eye and how to approach the nose, in the sense that with the lips you do have edges that make it a little bit easier to draw, whereas with the nose it's a lot about shading. But at the same time, the tricky part about the mouth is that you don't want to have an outline around your mouth. So here I've got my supplies. I've got my 3 pencils. I did have to resharpen my pencils because 2 of them had gotten quite dull. So they're a little sharper than what I would want them to be. Remember that when you do this drawing, you want to make sure that your drawing is nice and light and you're not pushing down really hard on your paper so that you indent it, which will get in the way of the shading part. All right, I've got my extra eraser also too there to save my erasers on the end of my pencils. So I've got my first drawing there from week 1, which was the left eye. So that's what we did week 1 of remote learning. Week 2 of remote learning, I showed you guys how to draw and shade your nose. These are all on the same piece of paper, so if you guys want to, you continue to work on the same paper. If you want extra paper, that's fine. All 3 of these drawings can be on a different paper if you want it to be. And then the week 3 is going to be all about how to draw the mouth. So again, if you don't have your sketchbook with you guys, you can work on a regular piece of notebook paper, or any blank piece of white paper will be fine. If you want to put all of these drawings on the same paper, that's fine. Or if you want to, you can have all 3 of these drawings on a separate piece of paper. Completely up to you and whatever works best for you. You can also use notebook paper, if I didn't mention that. So it doesn't matter if the lines show. So now what I'm doing is I'm showing you my photograph of my mouth that I took, my 7-year-old daughter took of my mouth. My recommendation is that you guys work exclusively off of the photo, directly off of your phone. So use the photo that's on your phone. The only reason why I printed mine out is so that way I can avoid dealing with my screensaver while I'm recording the video. So you do not have to print off your photographs. Just work directly off your phone, that's fine. So I'm just going back through my references. That was of my left eye. There's my photo of my nose. That was week 2. And now we're going to start on the mouth. And again, I'm just going to work directly on this same piece of paper that I've been doing all the other drawings on. I'm going to put my photo down, and I'm going to work right next to the photo so that way I can use that as my reference. You guys should just sit your phone right next to your drawing space. So that way you can easily compare the size and basically just kind of go right off of that. If you want to, you're more than welcome to email yourself the photo, and if you want to see it larger, you can view it on your Chromebook. But I do like looking at it smaller and working my drawing and just actually creating my drawing the same size as my photo. So now what I'm going to do is just start by creating the space in which I'll draw the mouth in. So I'm going to use, again, my photo as my reference for how wide and tall that space needs to be. If you want to, you can go ahead and just use your phone as that reference for the size. And as you can see, I've got some like scribbles that I did on my paper. I will go through and erase those just because they will get in my way of my drawing if I don't. So I'm just erasing those to get them out of the way and cleared for my mouth. And as you can see, I didn't use a ruler or anything to draw that rectangle. So now what I'm going to do is just divide the space as equally as I possibly can, vertically and horizontally, to just kind of give me a sense of where the middle of the space is. It just helps me get a place to start. And I'm just trying to work around that. You guys can see I'm getting a cash shadow off my hover cam. I don't want that to affect what you guys can see, so I'm kind of messing around with my setup just so that way I can get rid of that cast shadow that I'm getting off on my drawing. So again, just divide your drawing space both vertically and horizontally equally as much as possible. I'm not using a ruler, so this is not going to be perfect, and nor does it need to be perfect. It's just going to give me a place to start. So this line that I'm drawing horizontally across my space is going to kind of be a basis for where that middle line, they call it a midline of your mouth, and basically it's the line that's created when your mouth is closed. So it's that line that goes that's right underneath your top lip and above your bottom lip. And as you can see, but just from my photo, is that midline is not straight. So this straight line that I drew across my paper horizontally is not going to stay that way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by drawing the very top of my top lip, and I'm just pointing out the M. I call this the M of the lip. So you can see it has kind of two peaks like an M, like the letter M does, and you'll also see that reflected too in the midline. So I'm going to start at the very, very top of the top lip and in the middle by just drawing the peaks of my letter M. Everybody's is going to be different. Mine are a little bit spread out, so they're wider. And as you can see too, my lips are not very wide or thick, so I have kind of thin lips, so I'm going to be working close to where I think my midline is going to be. And again, I'm referring to my photo for the information that I need. I'm just basically doing a general drawing of these shapes and lines that I see, and I will go through and do a lot of editing and fixing after I get the initial drawing done. So I'm not looking for perfect, nor do I expect it to be perfect the first time I draw something. I go into every drawing just knowing that as soon as I draw something, it's not done, it's not perfect, and I just need to continue to play with it. But I got to give myself something to play with. So that's why it's important just to get something down on the paper. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. You'll play with it and you'll figure it out. So now I'm kind of drawing the sides off of my M. One of the things that you need to recognize, and I think people make a big mistake about, is that you think that the left side of your mouth is the same as the right side, and it's not at all. And you can see on my photo, it's clearly not the same. So I need to take that in consideration. This is what's going to make it look like my mouth and make it look more realistic. So those shapes are going to be, and those lines are going to be different on both sides. One's not going to be drawn like the other. You can kind of tell, like on my left side of my mouth, it's on the top lip, it's kind of curvier. It's got a little bit more of a hump. Whereas on the right side of my mouth, it's a bit more angular. So I'm going to take that in consideration. So I just kind of drew those edges down. As you can see, I didn't draw it all the way down to that horizontal line that I drew as a guideline. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and start drawing my bottom lip. Now typically your bottom lip tends to be thicker than your top lip. There are exceptions to this, but that's sort of an average of what you'll notice with lips. You'll also notice that your bottom lip will actually be wider than your top lip. So as you can see in my drawing, that outside edge of my bottom lip is going past where my top lip is. So it's wider. And as you can see, I have not connected any of those sides. So that's important. Do not connect it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the midline. Now the midline, number one mistake people make with this is that they assume that it's straight across. It is far from straight. And if you really look at my photo, you can tell that it's not. If you look at your photo, you'll see the same thing happening. So it is not straight. It's got quite a few bumps and angles. One of the things that I noticed is I was getting a lot of pencil on the bottom of my drawing hand. And the reason why was because I had my hand resting directly on top of my nose drawing. So I just put a piece of paper on top of that drawing to protect it and my hand. So I don't want to smear all of that hard work I did. So go ahead, put a piece of paper, any old scrap piece of paper on top of any of the previous drawings that you might have your hand over. So now I'm going to start again in the middle of my midline, kind of where I started the top and bottom lip. And I'm going to, again, kind of focus on that flat M that I see. those peaks of my M on the midline are not lined up with the peaks of my M on my top lip. So again, every time I draw something new, I'm comparing and contrasting it to things that I've already drawn or parts of a drawing that I've already addressed. I need to see how they compare to those so that I know how to draw the new parts. What's important is that all of these parts that I'm drawing work well together. So I'm just kind of continuing. I've got the middle part of the midline drawn. I'm drawing now the outside. You can see again that there's some little dips and stuff that happen. I'm just kind of generalizing my midline right now, and then I'm going to go back through and give it more detailed drawing. So I'm just kind of going back and forth and trying to play around with that. And I'm just checking to see how things are lined up. Now the shadows on the lips also too have a huge effect on the way that these lips look. So you'll notice that even this drawing is going to look weird because it's an outline. It's a contour line, so there's no form to it at all. And that form is not going to be added to it until we get the shading on there. So we're just looking at a two-dimensional translation of a three-dimensional object. And again, when it's everything said and done, you're not going to see these outlines or these contour lines that I have right now in my finished shaded drawing. And you shouldn't, because, we're not walking around with outlines around our lips. So again, I'm just kind of paying attention to the differences between the left and the right side. So I got to spend time just comparing and contrasting. I'm redrawing parts that just aren't working. I do mess around with this left side quite a lot, going back and forth with just how to draw it. So don't get frustrated. It's normal. This is just a normal part of the process. I feel like 95% of art is just reacting to what's not working. And it's just a lot of problem solving. It's a constant battle with problem solving. This is the natural sort of process of making art. You're just responding, comparing and contrasting, solving problems every time. So I'm just playing around with all this stuff. I do find that it's kind of frustrating, especially with the lips, because there is so much that needs to be done with just by adding value and shading to it to make it look the way you want it to look. So it can be frustrating to work on the contour, just the drawing of it. So I get it to a point where I'm like, okay, I think it's good enough. And then I'll be ready to start the shading. And if I still feel like there's problems when I start shading it, I'll address that then. But, you do the best that you can with the contour drawing, and then everything else will hopefully work itself out when you start to shade. So one of the things that I did forget to do in this drawing in the video is that I did not draw the Cupid's bow, or sort of like the little mark that kind of depicts where the top of your chin is. So that's something that you guys will see in my final photograph of the piece, but I did not put into the video. I actually forgot to do it until I went back and was reworking my drawing a bit. So I'm just kind of, again, just tweaking and stuff. Okay, so here I'm just, continuing to work on my drawing. Please make sure, do remember that on this particular video, I did forget to draw the Cupid's bow, which are those two sort of like lines that you see kind of above your lip that kind of point to those M's on your top lip. So forgot to draw those in on the video, and I also too forgot to draw in the line that sort of depicts the very top of my chin. So you can see that in my photograph, there's kind of like an edge right there. So I forgot to draw those in for the video, but you will see those in my final photograph of the piece. And I'm just continuing to go through, just getting picky about stuff. Again, I try to get this drawing to a point where I feel like it's about as close as I can get when it comes to a contour drawing. A lot of this is going to sort of evolve a lot more and look better once the shading is added to it and I get values on it. Now I'm about ready to I'm trying to take a photograph of my piece. Now one of the things you'll notice, and this is the same thing that happened with my nose, is that I'm getting a lot of shadows. So taking a photograph where I'm drawing it is not going to work well at all. What I have found is that there's an area in my house next to a window where I'm getting some pretty good light that comes in. So I go there to that spot every time to take a photograph of my finished drawing. And this would ideally be what you would upload to Canvas. So if you're getting a lot of shadows where you're at, move around in your house, find a window where there's some light coming in that will give you the opportunity to get a good photograph. So you'll see my bad and my good on the Canvas assignment when I post that. Once you're finished getting the photograph, then upload that to Canvas. Make sure that you check back at comments on what you need to do to fix your project or your drawing before you start the shading part of this assignment, okay? One of the things I'm gonna be looking for is I'm gonna be paying particular attention to the edges of your mouth. I wanna see that your top lip and bottom lip are not meeting up or not lined up to each other. I'm looking for the midline to be longer than your top and bottom lip. And I'm also going to be paying attention to the sort of the peaks of your M on your top and top lip and your midline. I do not want to see that midline drawn as a straight line. I know that that's not going to be the case for anybody. Now, there are exceptions to some of these rules. Like I have seen some kids where their top and bottom lip do match up, and I have seen other ones where the midline is close to the same width as the top and bottom lip. So if you are one of those people, make sure that you leave that in the comments on your Canvas assignment so I don't mark off for something that you see. So that's it. Good luck, guys.